Like I was saying, the last couple races, if you enjoyed the content that we've been producing this weekend, as well as throughout the entire opening couple rounds of the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series season, as well as our month of May coverage, then please subscribe today to the channel so you don't miss any of the content that we have upcoming, including the Virginia Nationals, the Norwalk Nationals, the West Coast Swing, even though we don't have Denver anymore, as well as, of course, Brainerd, IMSA weekend, and of course lead up to the US Nationals. So if you enjoy drag racing content, then please subscribe today to the channel so you don't miss any of the action heading forward into the summer. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So not a very optimal recording location. I didn't exactly want to be back up here again because I already did it back on Friday. My original goal was to be down there just past the tree, but you know, the rain that we have been afraid of, it has arrived. Thank goodness it arrived just as the final rounds ended today for the pro categories of the Super Grip Tires Thunder Valley Nationals. So again, kudos to NHRA for making the decision to push the schedule back. Yes, it did affect my sleep. Yes, I am very much tired. So is my photographer. We have about an 8-hour drive home to go back to Indianapolis. But man, oh man, what an incredible event, top to bottom. I've been saying it over and over and over again. The season just keeps getting better. More storylines being produced. We're seeing updates to current ones that are happening. We're seeing the rise of future stars in the season, and more championship bidders are making their names heard as we get set for the countdown. Looking at the overall highlights, before I get into it though, I do have one thing that I want to add. I get a lot of comments about, oh, why don't you cover Sportsman? Why don't you cover Pro Mod? Why don't you cover Alki, Funny Car, Top Fuel? Why don't you cover Mountain Motor Pro Stock? Well, that's because, you know, with the 4 categories I have very little time to even get down in the pits and talk to the drivers as it is. I have very little time to get my storyline straight for the videos. So to be quite honest with you, it's a mixture of I don't have the time and I don't have the mental capacity to focus on 6 to 7 classes on any given weekend. However, there is a guy that is doing that for you. His name is Lee Kraft. He is the owner of Monday Morning Racer, the YouTube channel. He is host of Between the Slicks. This weekend in particular, he is covering Mountain Motor Pro Stock in their backyard where it all started back in the NHRA days. So he has been covering that all weekend. He also covers the Alcohol, Funny Car, and the Top Fuel ranks, as well as Sportsman everywhere in between. He also goes out and covers the Southeast Gather Association and others like Funny Car Chaos. He's a big thing over there with them. So he's everywhere. If you like Alcohol, Funny Car, if you like Sportsman cars, if you like gassers, if you like the Mountain Motor Pro Stocks, then please go visit his channel. I have a link for it down below. He has a really cool show every week where he talks about the current state of drag racing. So please go support his channel. Go subscribe to it if you love the Sportsman ranks and the Lucas Oil series, because it is worth watching every single video, just like how we do it with the pro categories. Now, looking into the overall notes of today's event, things I want to go over, looking through it. The entire day was a rush to try and outrun the rain that was slated to hit later in the afternoon, literally right now. They had all 4 pro categories running to the semifinals by about 1 p.m. In the fuel categories, the lanes are pretty equal in the first 2 rounds. You had impressive runs set in both lanes. In the lane on the right, you had Doug Coletta go out there. He sat down the quickest ET of the event. Then, a couple of pairs later, in the left lane, Sean Langdon did the exact same thing. So in the fuel ranks, it was pretty even. In the funny cars, you saw more drivers winning in the right lane in the first round, but regardless, for the fuel cars, it was pretty much equal the entire way down the racetrack. Other notes to go over as well. For Pro Stock and the bikes, much like Eric Enders pointed out, much like Matt Smith pointed out, the right lane was better for them, but it didn't really turn out that way later in the race, which I'll get into a bit more when I cover the classes. The left lane has more bumps produced on it, especially down towards the tunnel sections. They complained a lot about it throughout the weekend, especially the transition down there. I saw Matt Smith get about 2 feet of air off that transition that he was talking about between the old pavement and new pavement that they put down there. So some big challenges for a lot of the drivers who were competing this weekend, but regardless, for the most part, pretty even in the fuel ranks, but when it came to the Pro Stockers and the Pro Stock bikes, it wasn't exactly as cut and dry. I mentioned earlier that they had gotten all the way up to the semifinals by about 1 p.m. Well, that quickly went awry, as during Legends Funny Car Round 1, only 4 cars in, first pair out, they had a driver who puked oil in the starting line on this left lane down here, right from the tree, puked it all the way up to about 300 feet. Annihilated the racetrack. We sat there for about an hour and a half as they reworked that track, and it was a big challenge for a lot of people just trying to make it into the race, especially with the fact they're trying to outrun the rain. They almost ended up back on schedule with where they were supposed to be to begin with, so it ended up being a huge challenge for a lot of them. But one thing I want to say, massive shout out to the safety safari, because they did an incredible job reworking that track. It was like nothing ever happened. If anything, it might have made that lane better than the right lane because of the fact they had to rework it so much. So kudos to them for the work that they've done. But again, with that, it put us in an hour delay, and it became a very big race against the clock just to get this race in. They actually shortened the distance between the semifinals and the finals by less than an hour just to make sure to get this race in. We're going to go through the ranking real quick because there are some surprises you're going to find in our notes for today's Thunder Valley Nationals. In Pro Stock Motorcycle Round 1, Hector Honor Jr. gets the round win against Angie Smith, who sounded like she once again suffered engine issues towards the finish. Mark Ingerson suffers engine issues in the pits and is unable to fix it in time, does not show up for his race against Gianna Evaristo as she gets an automatic bye run. Chris Bostick would end up jumping the start and losing the race to John Hall, who gets an auto advance into the next round. Gaige Herrera, your number 5 qualifier, turned the wick up once again, just like he did in Chicago, laid down his fastest run of the weekend in his race against Steve Johnson and secures the win. The rematch from the finals last year at Bristol. Chase Van Sant has an impressive run in his race against Ron Torino. He moves on to the next round, and he continues to build momentum as he starts to stake his claim for the bid for the championship. Kelly Klons continues to suffer engine issues with the bike and shuts it off early. He did not make one single clean pass on the racetrack all weekend, and especially in a race against Richard Gadsden, who scorches the tree and runs it to an easy round victory. Matt Smith takes the class to school and takes an impressive win against Ryan Ayler. Confirms the speed bump comment about the transition as his front tire got about 2 feet of air off the ground when he hit it. Your round 2 highlights: Chase Van Sant got too excited, throws away a round victory against Jasmine Salinas after a red light. Jasmine gets her first semifinal appearance of 2024. Richard Gadsden gets the advantage off the line and has to use it to score the round win as he defeats Hector Honor Jr. on a hole shot. Gaige Herrera jumps John Hall off the line, opens the gap down the track, and keeps the streak alive to the semifinals, where he would end up facing Matt Smith, who took a bye run in round 2 due to the fact that there were only 14 bikes, ran a 6.819 to get lane joints against Gaige Herrera. That would end up becoming a big storyline later on. In the semifinals, Gianna Evaristo beat Richard off the line and outruns him after having a horrible weekend up until Sunday. Crew went ballistic as she makes her first final round of the season. Matt Smith, however, decided to swap lanes. He was slated to run in the left lane, chose to run in the right lane. That ended up biting him as Gaige Herrera jumps Matt off the tree and is able to hold off Matt to get a half a bike length win. In the final round, Gaige Herrera takes no prisoners, guns Gianna on the tree, and runs away with the win by the time he reached the 60-foot mark. Breaks the record for the most wins in a row, where he was tied with Dave Schultz at 9. As well as the fact he now has won the first 4 races of the season. That also ties him with Dave Schultz, who did that back in 1991. In Pro Stock, Brandon Foster squares the tires early and is unable to catch it in time. Christian Quadra takes it down the track for the round win. Matt Hartford fell asleep on the tree. David Quadra cuts an 0.37 reaction time, and the race is over before it really begins. David Quadra takes the win. As well, a close race between Troy Coughlin and Kenny Delco. Troy's able to hold on and take the win by about half a car length. Aaron Stanfield jumps off the line first and runs away as Chris McGahey shoves the clutch in at about half track. Dallas Glenn has a strong run to take the round win against Derek Kramer. The right lane currently looks as dominant favorite of the class, just like Erica said last night, like I mentioned earlier. An intensely close race between Jeg Coughlin and Jerry Tucker. Jeg is able to sneak by with the round win. A really strong run from Larry Morgan, but it isn't enough to defeat Greg Anderson, who continues to produce strong passes as he runs a 6.63 to take the win. And for round 1, the right lane remained undefeated as Eric Enders scores the win against Fernando Quadra, runs another 6.63. Round 2. Jeg takes nephew Troy Coughlin to school as he crushes Troy on the tree and outruns him to the semifinals. Dallas Glenn lived up to the 00 Dallas nickname as he cuts a 009 reaction time to score a decisive round victory. Christian Quadric gets the advantage off the starting line, fails to hang on to it as he chases towards the wall. Erica ends up getting the win and moving back into the semifinals. Christian also gets the reaction time advantage on Greg Anderson, but the same result happens, leading to another Greg Anderson semifinal appearance. In the semifinals, Erica scores a 0-10 reaction time, but immediately squares the tires and fishtails it early. By the time she caught it, Jeg Coughlin was already halfway to the finish and advances to the finals. And then lastly, both cars left equally for Dallas Glenn and Greg Anderson's race. A close race until half track when Dallas's car began to fishtail. Greg makes it back to the final round. And in the finals, Greg pulled up to the starting line, still not even suited up or buckled into the car. It was a rush job to get ready, and that ended up costing him. Squares the tires immediately, just like Erica did, giving Jeg Coughlin his first win since Las Vegas earlier this year. In Funny Car, Matt Hagan guns the tree and runs away for a first round win against Chad Green. Runs best ET and speed of the weekend with a 3.951 at 321.65 miles an hour. Alexis DeJoria guns off the line quick and runs away with the race. Dave Richards was slow from the start and unable to respond. John Smith's car struggles off the line, fought it until half track when he decided to shut it off. Austin Prock sails down to set another low ET of the weekend at a 3.924. Ron Capps had a strong start off the line and sails it down to the round win, while Buddy Hull fights the car to the finish. A good start for Bob Taska turned into a pedal fest with Bobby Buddy III. Taska gets away with the win after nearly crossing the center line. Jarrett Todd runs away with it as early as Terry Haddock loses the cylinder. Terry still runs an impressive 4.097. John Forrest powers down the racetrack to take his round win. It looked as if Daniel Wilkerson's car was beginning to lose power towards the finish. And lastly, Paul Lee's car quits at about half track. Cruz Pedregon scores a much-needed first round victory. In round number 2, J.R. Todd leaves earlier than Ron Capps. A close race between the two former champions leads to J.R. grabbing another semifinal berth. Alexis DeJoy's car lost the cylinder early. Car started to dance towards the finish. John Forrest is able to navigate it down the track and make his 4th semifinal appearance in a row. Cruz started to shake the tires off the line. Prock plants his feet down and runs on rails down to the track to get another round win and move back into the semis. Taska smokes the tires before half track and is unable to save it. Hagan moves on to win while also suffering issues towards the finish. In the semifinals, John Forrest dives deep, car shutters off the line and struggles to get the speed needed to pass JR. Jarrett Todd advances back to the final round. Austin Prock ends up beating Matt Hagan off the line. Matt's car struggles to get down the racetrack, and it ends up with Austin Prock making back-to-back final round appearances. In the final round, it was a close race as both cars make it down the track clean. Todd's car started to bobble late in the run, and it gave Austin Prock what he needed to beat J.R. Todd by a nose and sweep the weekend by getting #1 qualifier, the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, as well as the coveted Thunder Valley Nationals Wally. Lastly, in Top Fuel, Doug Foley gets an early advantage. Tony's car begins to spin the tires at mid-track and eventually shuts it off. Doug Foley ends up scoring the victory. I had an opportunity to talk to Tony Stewart after his round 1 loss. He said they're struggling to find a baseline setup. They'll have weekends where the car reacts well to what they give it, and then they'll refuse it later, and it's not about getting comfortable driving the car anymore. It's just about getting it to the finish line. Tony Schumacher faces off against Jasmine Salinas. He has an impressively strong run at 378, lowest run of the weekend. Doug Coletta betters at ET against Antron Brown and tears the track at a 372. Clay Milliken gets away with the round win after his car shut off at about mid-track, was losing cylinders very early in the run, but Cameron Ferrer's car quit a heck of a lot earlier than his did. Sean Langdon backs up the run Doug had, ran a 373 in the other lane, while Sean Reed shakes the tires and almost crosses the center line. Brittany Forrest jumps off the line with the early advantage. Justin Ashley begins to run her down towards the finish, but suffers a massive explosion at the top end. Brittany gets a much-needed round win while running a 3.733, her first clean run of the weekend. Steve Torrance had selected the right lane going in after Ashley's explosion. The team decides to swap lanes to the left side, jumps off the line first, and runs away to the round win, while his father, Billy Torrance, gets an early advantage and is able to hold on to take the round win against Josh Hart. Runs top speed of the weekend at 331 miles an hour. Round 2. Doug's car quits early in the run. Clay Milliken again loses the cylinder and shuts it off early, but is able to survive to get it to the win. A close race between Sean Langdon and Tony Schumacher, where they saw identical reaction times between the two, but Sean's car wobbled more and allowed Tony Schumacher to gain the advantage he needed to take the win. Billy Torrance would haze the tires later in the run and allowed Brittany Force to drive down to get back into the semifinals for the first time in a couple months. And lastly, the final round between Steve Torrance and Doug Coletta. Both cars left equal. Steve's car moves towards the middle of the track and ended up losing a tight race with Doug Coletta. In the semifinals, the first pair out after the oil delay was Schumacher versus Milliken. Clay Milliken didn't have lane choice and was put in that lane, but was able to make it down the track and blew the motor towards the finish after dancing the car down the track. Tony Schumacher gets back-to-back final round appearances, worth noting as well, both against Clay Milliken. Brittany Force beats Doug on reaction time, but looks as if she might hold on to it, but the car hazes the tires. Doug takes the win to give us an epic rematch. Once again, tale as old as time, Schumacher versus Coletta. And then finally, in the final round, payback time. Tony Schumacher guns Doug Coletta on the tree. Race turns into a pedal fest, and Tony Schumacher holds on to score his first win since Seattle of 2022, which just so happened to be the first ever race of JCM Racing after selling the team to him from Don Schumacher. We had an opportunity to talk to the winners after today's race. We'll hear from them in a second, but first, let's look through highlights of today's Thunder Valley Nationals.
He leaves with a 1/10 of a second advantage. They go past the 8th mile, and it happens again. 681.8. His marauding of this class, it is inexorable. It is ceaseless. 681 beats a 686.
And Brian, there is that historic Wally, and you just said off camera, I'm so glad I have this monkey off my back, but you also break the record that was set by Dave Schultz, now having 9 straight wins in this class. How apropos is it that it is right here at the track that bit you last year?
It's amazing, to get 9 straight wins and, pass up Dave Schultz. I mean, I never would have dreamed that. Yeah, getting it here at Bristol, the track last year wasn't nice to me, and it wasn't being nice to me this weekend either. We didn't qualify too good, and but at the end of the day, I had a very consistent, fast motorcycle, and man, this whole weekend has just been tough. Between racing Matt and the semis, that was an awesome race. That's probably the highlight of the weekend for me there. But getting this win and taking it back, the whole Van Science camp, and this Rebs Little Motul Gen 3 Suzuki Hayabusa is in the winner's circle again. Woo!
No, you don't. You want to be Jeg Coughlin with his traction. Jeg Coughlin is going to grab his 3rd career victory at Bristol Dragway at 6.707, 204.94 miles an hour with a toe 23 like Greg was 001 in the tree, and then the tire shake came. For Jeg Coughlin, this is final round 117 and win number 67.
And there's the Wally in the hands of Jeg Coughlin Jr. He took one look at the time slip and said, I wasn't expecting that. I said, what point you said that 001 from Greg. And
yeah, a little rascal.
You think of the hunt for a championship. It is a marathon, not a sprint. You now own 2 of these this season. Why are you an early favorite in this class?
Well, it's I got a hell of a team behind me with the Elite Motorsports, and that obviously feels extremely good. Obviously, we've been just trying to find our consistency and our strength on Sundays, and obviously we won a couple of races as a team, and certainly felt like we left a few out there too, but feels great. Thunder Valley here, be on top of the mountain again. For everyone at Skag and JHG, Outlaw Beer, Jegs, thank you all for your love and support, and thanks to all the fans for coming out today. What a show.
You cannot get outrun, and you cannot smoke the tires. Here we go. Austin Prock is motoring on the right-hand side of 398.9 at 312 miles an hour, and the place erupts. The fans jump to their feet to celebrate Prock's victory, as does the crew. They didn't do it to him twice. He won this week. He had to give one back last week.
And as the Wally gets presented to Austin Prock, and the statement that you are making on this class, you've been the #1 qualifier 6 out of 8 races. This is your 2nd Wally. How are you making this transition so natural?
Oh, I've been practicing for this my whole life. Great job, boys. Oh, man, it's so amazing. Life could not get better right now. Thank you, Cornwall Tools, Chevrolet, Hendrick Cars, Monster, everyone for this opportunity. I'm living my dream, and it sure is badass winning these things. Whoa! Let's go!
That is the story for both of these drivers now. They come in, quote, having run within 5,000ths of each other in the semis. Tony Schumacher has a massive starting line advantage, and he won 4:23.6, a tire-smoking final. Schumacher leaves with an 80 light. Something happened to Doug Coletta, and for the first time since Seattle of 2022 and the 87th time in his career, Schumacher's a winner again.
And Tony Schumacher just said these are heavier than I remember, and it was a gauntlet of a battle between you and Doug Coletta and yourself. Tony, when you look at the parity that's in the Top Fuel class right now, the competition right now, some of the hardest you've seen in your career?
Best I've ever seen, and every now and then I'll say that and I'll post something and a whole slew of fans will be like, oh man, back in the 60s there were 200 cars that would show up. I go, okay, but there was Big Daddy, Shirley, and then a bunch of cars, right? And now there's like 10, you don't know who's gonna win. There's 12 cars. Look, we were 12th and 14th in the final round there. So epic, the fans, like I say, each round the fans are the ones winning, but for Leatherwood Distillery, Michael Walter Brewing right here in our backyard, Joe from Texas.com, we love you guys, Rack Financial, all the people that support me, we'll be getting our butts kicked. But I always tell my wife, I say, we're one run away from having that car that can go out and win. And we're there now. Obviously, we just won this race. That was an ugly one, but I hit the gas. I think he might have double-stepped it. I heard a lot of noise, and I thought, gee, am I that late? It was a long tree, but that is just such a great thing. That's a Coletta, man. That's a champion now. We're all proud to call him that. But love you guys. NHRA, Bristol, 7th win, baby. Peace.
So this is the second race in a row now that you've came in here, not number one qualifier. Many people would have looked otherwhere for who the winner was going to be. We've seen in this season so far many more riders outside of Matt Smith starting to make that jump towards the number one spot. Chase Van Sant being one of them. You've seen Gianna have a good weekend so far, Hector Arana and Angie as well. Who is the people outside of Matt Smith that you're looking at as your biggest competitor and just the state of the competition in the class right now compared to what we had last year?
Besides Matt Smith, we got Chase Van Sant and my teammate Richard. They're running good, and Chase is always on the light, so is Richard. So, it's not just me and Matt battling it out. I got to worry about a lot of them, and not only that, Hector. Hector's always really good on the lights. So there's a good handful of people that are getting closer and closer. I think this was probably the tightest top 5 field we've had in qualifying for quite a while, and that was pretty cool.
And then also, last time we were here, you were on the undefeated streak. Speaking of the whole Dave Schultz record, the record now is still set to possibly be broken by you. You came within one loss of it last year. You're thinking about these records, like I've been talking about all weekend, you're at these highest of highs. Just talk about the emotion that you feel, again, just thinking about it, that you're in even the same conversation with Dave Schultz this quickly in your career so far.
Yeah, I never would have thought my name ever be mentioned with Dave Schultz or Bob Litton and all those guys. It's a lot to take in. This whole, even from last season and now, it still doesn't. It's obviously real, but it don't feel real. What has been accomplished in such a short amount of time. It's a lot to take in, but I'm enjoying the ride. I'm trying to, look at every little milestone I've, passed or got, and it's. Growing up as a kid, I would have never thought I'd be in this position or have my name in history books. It's kind of, it gets emotional sometimes when I think about it.
So when you come back this season, you come back after stepping away from the car, being content with where you were. Now that you've come back and you're winning these races again, do you enjoy them more now that you're not kind of in that serious focus 5 races ahead championship battle like you used to be when you were running against the likes of Larry Morgan, Greg Anderson, and Warren Johnson? You just find yourself being able to just enjoy these wins more now that you can be more relaxed about it, not having to worry about proving yourself?
That's a great question. It's funny. With age, we kind of mature in different ways, and I have done just that. I took 3 years off. I retired from Pro Stock and just came back to the fray this year full time. So these wins are very special. I don't take them for granted like I used to. Not that I ever took them for granted, but I never. I was guilty of winning the race on Sunday, and on the flight home was transitioning back into business mode, I'm at work first thing Monday morning and often into that world for the week until we fly into the next race and kind of transition back into it. And in a different part of my life, I don't have that Monday morning calls I have my entire life back at Jegs, and which is good and bad without question, but it feels really good to enjoy the wins. We've got a 40+ member team in Elite Motorsports and with Quadra family as well, and we will celebrate this win. We will enjoy it, and Virginia can't come quick enough.
So Austin, when you're in your top fuel days, when you're a rookie, everybody knew what you were capable of, but days wouldn't just go your way. You would have weekends where you were super hot, but then you would fall into a pit and just waiting for that day to come back. Now that you're here and you're finally getting to experience that and you're winning these races left and right, how satisfying is that for you personally to finally see the work that you put in now get realized and get to enjoy these moments?
Yeah, it really all goes back to the team. I got thrown into a car that's been arguably the best in the past decade, and these guys have been together so long, and that's something that I never had in Top Fuel. We were always switching crew chiefs, we were always switching crew members, and I finally got put into a car that had, some longevity with the team and crew, and they threw me in there, and that's a lot of pressure on myself for sure, and definitely don't want to let those guys down. I see how hard they work, and I'm in there working with them in the shop, so yeah, definitely proud of that. Never want to let those guys down, and we definitely didn't today. We're all going to have some fun tonight.
You mentioned earlier about back in the early to late 2000s when you were on that warpath, when you were winning these races like it was going out of style. Now that it's been gone and these wins are fewer and farther between, do you get to appreciate and cherish these wins more, like knowing what you said, how hard it is to win these now compared to when you were winning these races like left and right, week in and week out?
That's a super good question. I would like, yes, I think, but my guys on the team, sometimes they would joke, and it was that team that we won 15 races in a year, and they'd go, "Come on, we're busy, can we just use photos from last week?" And I would get like, "Hey man, there will come a time where A, we're not part of the same team, but also whatever team we're on isn't doing this anymore." Like every single time, smile. Every time you accomplish something as exciting, and it should even be more so. When we went and won 15 races a year, that 15th time of taking photos should have been the greatest. Not a, "Oh man, we're busy, we got a lot of photos from this year, we're tired of doing this." I'm never tired of doing this. I am never tired of calling my travel agent and changing flights because I want to race. I'm never going to get sick of that. It's not going to happen. I love being here, I love what I do, but I respect each and every win, truly feel blessed to ever have the chance to drive these cars again. And, as one of the elderly drivers, it's me, Coletta, Caps, Force, right? We're doing this a long time. Every time we put a trophy on the shelf, we show that this is it, man. We have experience and we can do this, and we can still do it. Because all too often, all we hear about is reaction time. All we hear about. The whole race, if it was run on reaction time, there'd be one winner, period. Justin Hesse would win every race, can't lose. He's going to leave on everybody all the time. Problem is, there's another 1,000 feet. You can be a great driver, you can have one great thing, two great things. Winning these races can be easy. If you're great on the tree, they're not going to be easy. If you're bad on it, you got to earn all of it. You got to work through and dig deep. So every single one of these qualities is more difficult to earn and equally in the photos. I'm going to go downstairs now. I can tell you I don't know if it's 4 or 5 of my guys that have never won one, but they are going to enjoy this like they have never enjoyed a day before holding the wall. So there's the flip side. We had those experienced guys won 15 races in a year, and then we have these guys that just got their first Wally. So for me to be able to go down there and cherish that moment, it's a beautiful thing.
So that is going to wrap up our content here from the Thunder Valley Nationals in beautiful Bristol Dragway. Even when it rains, it's even more beautiful. I mean, I don't know if you can tell us. I don't know if the camera's that good. I'm going to try and see if I can work a little magic here just to give you an idea. Look up there. Look at those clouds over the mountains. Like, it's just caressing. It's like a Bob Ross painting up there. It is just mwah, mwah. Beautiful track. I love coming to this track, and you should too if you've ever been to this track. If you haven't, what are you doing with your time? Come here next year. It's an 8-hour drive for me, so if you live close in that, you have no excuses for not coming to Bristol. again, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been an incredibly fun week, and I enjoy getting to come out to these races. We've had a blast getting to not only cover this event, but getting to shoot photos down the line. Brody has done a lot of incredible work and getting us some great photos for not only the thumbnails, but what we've been posting on Twitter and Instagram. So if you enjoy those, be sure to follow me on social media pages, MightyMac03 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Be sure to subscribe to the channel today so you don't miss any of the content whatsoever, as well as liking the video, commenting your thoughts on today's weekend and who's your hot picks for the summer months, as well as sharing the video to everybody you know, so that way these grandstands over here can become more full as the season goes on. Thank you to Gutswear for supporting us this weekend. We love the work that they do for us. If you enjoy F1 diecast or t-shirts or jackets and hats, if you like IMSA or IndyCar stuff in the same respect, be sure to go there, support a local business, and show them the love that they need so that way they can continue to give you guys back the same amount of love. And until the Virginia Nationals, this has been Mighty Mac. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next time.